Hello and welcome. You are listening to The Day My Brain Broke, presented by me, Lucy Reddin, in partnership with the Encephalitis Society. We shall be sharing with you the lives and experiences of those affected by encephalitis, a type of brain inflammation. Hello and welcome to the Day My Brain Broke podcast. And today we are speaking with Hannah, who is one of our wonderful volunteers over in Ireland. Now you may have heard about her in one of our previous podcasts when I spoke with the lovely John. Hannah also works with John as one of the volunteers for the support group over there. So Hannah, hello, good morning. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Not at all. Honestly, it's a pleasure. It really is, just to speak to yourself and wanting to find out a little bit more about, your experiences and everything. So do you want to explain to us basically before everything went a little bit left field, shall we say, what was your normal life like? Whatever normal is, explain what a standard day was or week was in your life.
Yeah, no, it's such a good question because I think many people who've had encephalitis, sometimes they say before I was sick and now it's like two separate lives. But yeah, before I got sick, I was 20. I was studying my bachelor's in psychology, and I was working part-time in a local shop. So yeah, life was very bland, boring. I wasn't very outgoing. I was very much so an introvert. I didn't have many friends. The thoughts of going on a night out just scared the living daylights out of me. I was just very in on myself, and very shy, painfully shy. So that's kind of where I was at before I got sick. And I suppose it all kind of started after I finished my second year exams in college.
Okay, so give us an idea. What was the kind of like the run up to what was happening? Did it span over a few days, a few weeks, a few months? How did it happen with yourself?
Yeah, so it was over the course of several months. So it was very long. The first thing I noticed was actually I finished my exams on the Friday, and interestingly, one of my exams is on cognitive psychology, and I wrote an essay on brain injuries, which is bizarre. Yeah, so that was Friday.
Wow.
And it was the Sunday I got my first symptom, which is just...
That's crazy.
Crazy. So I went out on the Saturday night to celebrate. Went to work the next day, and I thought I was hungover, but I was like putting on my jacket, taking it off, and I was like, I had a fever, so I was like hot, cold. I had a really sore throat and just like the worst headache I've ever experienced. So I got through the day. It was the longest shift ever. It was just awful, and I just put it down to being hungover. And I suppose at the time leading up to this, in kind of the 6 months previous to this, I was, as I kind of mentioned before, I was quite shy and introverted. And I suppose the reason for that was because there was a lot of stuff going on around me that I was finding really stressful, and quite anxious. So at the time I was going through a difficult time as it was personally. There was like a relationship breakdown with my partner. We were kind of on again, off again, a bit of a Ross and Rachel situation, and his name is Ross, which is funny. Yeah, but we were just young, started college, and we'd been going out since we were 16, so we were growing, but growing in different directions.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was going through a really difficult time as well. So so that was kind of the months leading up to it. I was stressed and I wasn't myself. So when I got these other symptoms, like the flu-like symptoms, I kind of just put it down to me being kind of, worn out. And that was in May. And then that...
What year was the color? Sorry, May, which year?
2017.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, so it went on from May, and I didn't get diagnosed till September.
Wow. Okay. So then, yeah, so there was quite a few months. So throughout those months, were you ever taken to hospital or seeing a GP? Was there lots of different diagnoses going around?
Yeah, that time was just wild. I look back at that time and I'm just like, did I really live through that? It just seems like somebody else's life. So yeah, I remember I took a week off work when I first got that cold. I was like really feverish, really sick. And it took about a week for kind of the height of the symptoms to pass. And I went back to work, and I kind of threw myself into work at this time because of whatever, the personal things that were going on. I just kind of wanted to keep my mind off it. And I remember it was about 3 weeks later after the first symptom that I woke up during the night and I was really struggling to breathe. And my throat was so sore. So I went to the doctor first thing, and she said I had glandular fever, and she took a test and came back it was. And I was in a real rush to get better because in a week's time I was flying over to London to visit my brother.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So when I went, I did fly over, and when I went over, I wasn't even finished the antibiotics. So I don't know. I wouldn't do that now, but I was 20. I was like, I'd never experienced anything serious before, so I didn't have much kind of cop on, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's probably a good thing. Naivety in that instance was probably a blessing, to be honest.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
100%. But this is where my encephalitis symptoms really start to show.
Right.
So we're about 3 weeks in to these symptoms, and I go over to see my brother. I get to the airport and I've lost £200 that I got exchanged from euros to pounds.
No.
And I didn't understand it. I was like, I just couldn't comprehend. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'll just go anyways. And I like had no sense of understanding that I needed money to go. And I got lost in the airport in Dublin. And when I got to, I can't even remember where I got to, somewhere in London anyways. There's so many different airports. I got lost and I cried in the middle of the airport like a child.
Oh, bless you. Oh.
Yeah. I just remember feeling so overwhelmed. Like there was so much going on in my head and I couldn't process it.
Yeah.
And I've eventually found where I got lost in the airport was getting lost where like trying to find the exit. Like I couldn't find the exit. But when I did find the exit, I must have gotten on like 6 different tubes and trains, and I was only meant to get on one.
Oh, wow. So the brain was literally just very confused at that point, I suppose.
I was so confused and I was so distressed. I was so upset and scared. And the trip, my brother instantly knew something was wrong.
Did he? Right. So he could tell just as soon as you kind of turned up, he was just like, something's not right with Hannah.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. When he heard I cried when I got lost, he was like, that's very odd behavior. Right. Yeah. And also we had such like amazing plans. We were going to go see Wimbledon, and I slept in, and he tried to wake me and I was like, no, I just kept sleeping. Right. And he had so much kind of like activities to do, and I just stayed in his apartment the whole time, like sleeping.
Oh, wow.
So strange. And, a lot of this is from his recollection because everything's very blurry to me from this point onwards.
Yeah.
So I remember the feeling of feeling tired and confused, but I don't really remember the trip.
Gosh, yeah. So then leading up to the day your brain actually broke, did you then end up in hospital quite relatively, soon after that trip to London?
No.
Really?
It's a long story, but I'll try to condense it. I went back to my GP saying, I have these weird symptoms, I'm falling asleep. And then about 10 days after I came home from London, my nana passed away, and I couldn't comprehend it. Like everybody was upset and I was just sitting there staring blankly into space. And it was at the funeral that my family members noticed my speech was slurred. And my mom had just lost her mom, so she wasn't aware of it. Yeah. So when family members went to her about it, we went back to the GP with all these symptoms. And because of everything else that was going on in my life, my nana passing away, the breakdown in the relationship, she assumed it was anxiety and depression. And she put me on Xanax and Lexapro. And then these GP trips continued from July to the end of August. And each trip I would get more antidepressants. And each trip I felt more, I kind of felt more and more frustrated without, you know, I remember the very last trip I was there, I felt the doctor was quite impatient with me. Because I said, I'm not mentally sick. I said, I want to go to a speech therapist. I remember I kept saying that. I need to go to a speech therapist.
Yeah.
And she said to me, she looked at me and kind of like quite forcefully said to me, you are mentally sick. And if you don't accept it, you're not going to get better. And I remember looking at my mom with tears in my eyes and trying to word like, I'm not, but I couldn't speak at this point. And I was just looking at my mom to speak for me, but she just followed the doctor. And so that was really
good, because they're the professionals, and that's what it should be. That's how it should be. The professionals are there to guide us as to, you know, what the best interest is for us. So all of this, how are you feeling at this stage? Because surely by now you're convinced something must be going on, but clearly it's not whatever. It's not anxiety, it's not depression. So how are you able to then get further treatment?
Well, at this point I was at a loss. I just remember feeling incredibly angry that no one was listening to me. And then at the same point I couldn't speak. And I remember sometimes waking up in the morning and trying to practice saying like, hello, hello, to see if it's come back yet. And it never would. I'd open my mouth and nothing would come out. And like, just to mention, I was still working at this point.
Seriously? Wow.
Because my doctor said to me, the best thing for your mental health is to get out and keep working.
Right.
So
what was your job at the time? What were you doing?
I was just working in like a local shop. I was working on the tills and the deli. So I was talking to people a lot, and I remember at one point these group of teenagers came in and asked for a fidget spinner, and they asked how much it was, and I was like, I couldn't say €5, and they all started laughing at me, and like it was just so distressing. So I think that's a huge insight as to how distressing that period of my life was. It was just feeling like the world was against me. So how I actually got to my diagnosis was on that very last trip with my GP, where she told me, you know, you're not going to get better if you don't accept it. I said, I said, I'm not mentally sick. So she sent me for a referral to a psychiatric hospital. And I kicked and screamed. I did not want to go. It was an outpatient appointment. So I went for 3 appointments, 2 to a psychologist who hadn't breathed what was going on with me. So referred me on to their neuropsychologist.
Right.
Who then within 15 minutes turned to my mom and said, this isn't psychological. I think it's neurological. We need to get an MRI ASAP. And I was in the room and I don't remember that.
Right. Yeah.
But the one thing the neuropsychologist said to my mom was that like I was there, but I wasn't there.
Okay.
You know, like she kind of said like I couldn't. For instance, for example, like my nana passing away, she said like I knew my nana passed away, but I didn't connect the emotions to it. I didn't understand it. So what I've been told is that the neuropsychologist said I'd like to keep her in here though until we get that test because I'm worried for her going home. And apparently at that point I said, look, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of people telling me I'm mentally sick, and I got up and I left.
Did you? Right. Okay.
I have no memory of this, so this is from my mom's memory. So but
I mean, it's not surprising your reaction, let's be honest, by then at that point. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And I can't believe, so it literally took a neuropsychologist like 15 minutes to work out something was not right. So it just shows as soon as you're presented to somebody in the particular or the correct field, then they're able to immediately, you know, assess, right, this is a neurological problem rather than something else. So then you walked out, you decided, no, that's not for me, I'm not having it. were they able to grab you back, or was that it? You were out?
I don't think I even grabbed my coat. I have a vague memory of it. I think I just said, here, like, this is ridiculous. So my mum drove me home, and apparently the neuropsychologist said to my mum, look, just go with her. She'll come around. She's just had enough right now.
Yeah.
So my mum drove me home, and it was about, I'm going to say, that was the Tuesday, I think, but maybe about 2 days later, I woke up in my bed and I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, and I was in immense pain. Like, my head was just so sore. Like, I can't describe the pain. Yeah. My back hurt, everything hurt, my neck hurt. Like, it was just unbearable. And I remember my dad took the day off work and he sat beside me and held my hand as I just cried in pain. And my mom came up to me and said, do you want help? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay, there's a bed for you in the psychiatric hospital. Do you want it? And I said, yeah, because I was in so much pain. I really was on like death's door at this stage, unknowing to anybody, to be honest. So I remember my mom asked me to pack a bag for 3 days, and I looked at my wardrobe and the bag, and I didn't know how to pack a bag. I was like, what do I bring? I was like, I don't know how to pack a bag. So that's how bad my cognition had gone. Yeah. And I was in work 3 days previous and had a customer shout at me because I gave them the wrong change. But like, my cognition was just gone. So I don't really know how I think that was just a testament to like how strong I was. I just kept going.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, so my mom packed my bag for me, and I remember getting into my dad's car, driving all the way there. It was about an hour away. My parents getting out of the car and me just sitting in the car saying, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there. And I got out of the car, and I remember it was raining, and we got up to the front door, and there was a security guard there. And I remember looking at him and thinking, I'm not going to get out of here alive. I just had a feeling. I was like, this is not right.
Yeah.
They admitted me, and they took like a necklace my boyfriend had given me for our 4-year anniversary, my phone, like my laces. I was put on like a high risk ward.
Right. Okay.
A locked ward. And that was terrifying. So I couldn't contact anybody. Didn't get to say goodbye to my boyfriend or my friends or anybody. So yeah, I spent 3 days there. And there was a multiple of things that led to my diagnosis. There was someone who did a neurology test on me, you know, where they rub your foot and they bang your knee, you know. I failed them. And then that MRI the previous neurologist had arranged, I got that while I was there.
Right. And
they called back within like 12 hours and said, something wrong, you have to go straight to A&E.
Right.
My parents and my family got the shock of their lives because it wasn't what they expected. They actually found a cyst in my brain, a pineal gland cyst.
No way.
And initially the doctors thought that's what was causing my symptoms. But it turns out I was probably born with it. But in the strangest way, this cyst in my brain probably saved my life, because it got me from the wrong hospital to the right hospital.
Because I guess after finding the cyst, everything just got immediately fast-tracked, and you were then,
100%. I was seen by a neurologist straight away in A&E because they thought it was so serious.
Wow.
But, and I got a lumbar puncture when I was in A&E, and that was sent off to Oxford to be tested for encephalitis. That took 3 weeks, so there was another 3 weeks of waiting. So we're into September now. But what they did know based on my bloods was that I had a really high white blood cell count. So they knew I was fighting an infection, but they just didn't know what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So they had put me up into a general ward. At this point, neurology had kind of washed their hands of me. They were like, there's nothing to say that she needs to be in neurology.
Right.
So they were giving me antibiotics for a general infection. And my kidneys started to kind of not work because I was really dehydrated and I couldn't handle the antibiotics. So things were just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it was that day that my dad received a phone call from the neurologist saying that lumbar puncture had come back, and it said I had anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis. And then that was the start of kind of the rest of the story.
Yeah. So for the benefit of our audience, are you able to explain what anti-NMDA, so I can't even say it, anti-NDMR?
NMDA, yeah, NMDA. I couldn't say it for ages. I still can't.
Yeah, receptive. Yeah. What's the difference? Because that's basically, it's an autoimmune type of encephalitis, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So basically, it's when the immune system kind of goes on a mad one and attacks the NMDA receptors in the brain. And the NMDA receptors are essential for things like kind of breathing, cognitive regulation, but also NMDA receptors are control our kind of personality and our emotional regulation. So yeah, when the NMDA receptors aren't working, nothing works. But because it controls that kind of emotional side, one of the symptoms of anti-NMDA is psychosis, and among other things, just behavior change, and things like that. So a lot of people do get misdiagnosed with it, which is unfortunate, and I hope it does change. But yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it can also be caused by an ovarian teratoma.
That's right. I've heard of that as well. That's right. Yeah.
I get tested for that every 6 months because sometimes they can be so small you can't see them and they grow slowly.
Really?
So
Right.
yeah, so these ovarian,
a specific type of cyst that grows in the ovaries.
yeah, it's a benign tumor. It has teeth, hair, skin, and also brain cells. So the immune system gets kind of confused and sees the brain cells,
and
attacks the brain.
Yeah.
So that's a common cause of it. For me, they don't know. They'll never know. The fact I had glandular fever, they think it might have been a post-infectious encephalitis.
Right. Yeah.
But there's no way of
It
knowing.
was trying to fight the glandular fever, and then somehow it got a bit confused and started attacking itself.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm almost speechless to hear what you've had to endure and to go through. And I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, you've explained so clearly and so honestly just how it made you feel and the frustrations and the anger that you were feeling. And like, it's making me upset just as, on your behalf, just what you've gone through, but also, your parents as well and your family, like you say, your brother, your boyfriend, your friends, to then be locked up in a, 3 days in a psychiatric ward, basically with no contact. How did your kind of like network of friends and family, what was their reaction to it all at the time as well?
Yeah, that's such a good question. My boyfriend, interestingly, always knew it wasn't psychological. He's always said that.
Really?
He didn't want me to go on the antidepressants, and he thought it was bizarre because he's like, I know there's something else going on. He could read me like a book though. He took it terribly. He probably took it the worst. We're going out 9 years now, so we're still together.
Fantastic.
We're together since we were 16. So I think it was just like trying to live without your other half is just so hard. So he took it incredibly hard, but he's just one of the strongest people I know. So I think his main priority was just that I get better, and he was an absolute gem. His mom was an absolute gem. They used to come in and look after me and feed me and things. And he was only 21 at the time, so I think it made both of us grow up a lot. My parents, my mom gave up her job to be kind of my carer for about a year.
Right.
And my dad, he took it really bad as well. I think this, men find it hard to speak about things. My mom would have her kind of coffee chats with the girls, and I think he kept a lot of that in, and I think it's going to be something that haunts all of us for the rest of our lives. It's not, I think time does heal, but it does have an impact on every person around me. My friends were just kind of confused and scared, I think. Yeah, I think that was kind of the main theme amongst
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
People were scared.
And were they or you able to, gain any information about the type of encephalitis just in general, to just find out more about it?
We actually didn't find the Encephalitis Society till about a year after. When I first got sick, I know my boyfriend just Googled encephalitis, and especially anti-NMDA, and it all came up about, kind of the high death rates and the fact that it can, psychosis can kind of mask it. So when you kind of Google it, it's quite scary. But my dad read Brain on Fire while I was sick. He used to read it to me when I was unconscious at night. He
And that
found
book,
that,
we should say, that's by Suzanne Cowhan. Is that
yeah,
right? She was working for the New York Times as a
yeah.
journalist when she then was also struck down by it. An amazing book, an amazing film as well.
Oh, amazing film. I haven't read the book yet. I tried to, but it was just a bit too close to home.
I can imagine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, her story is very similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
so but my dad got great comfort out of that.
Did. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
and he also contacted a few people online who also like other parents and things. So I think that support was just immense, connecting with other families.
Definitely. I think it's just support as a whole is just something that's so important. And especially when it's with a condition that, so many people don't know anything about. So to just find other people, who have had encephalitis, or family members or friends, of people who have had encephalitis is just so important. So you mentioned just earlier about the fact that your mum had to give up work to look after you for a year. So what was your recovery like? That was obviously it took a while, a long time, the fact that your mum then had to give up work. So can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so yeah, my mom used to come in and visit me twice a day in hospital, morning and evening. She was just like devoted. And my experience of being discharged from hospital, I was definitely discharged way too early. And then there was about a 3-month waiting gap between hospital and rehab.
Right.
So I was sent home, not like still needing kind of help getting dressed and eating and things like that. So my mom kind of really had to take on that care role of helping me get dressed, eat, especially taking medication. I couldn't remember if I had my breakfast, let alone if I took my morning medication.
Yeah, yeah.
And I came home on like 25 tablets. So my mom became like a chemist as well. So she was
Wow.
doing all that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I had to I had to learn how to walk again, talk again. Learning how to talk again took the longest. I suppose maybe that was maybe the most affected, but it took a very, very long time for that to come back.
Yeah.
And then my memory was severely impaired. So I don't remember about 4 or 5 months, 2017. So, my mom would do exercises with me every day, such as like I'd read an article and I'd have to recite it back to her for memory kind of purposes.
That's good. Yeah, yeah. A good way to just retrain the brain and try and keep that memory
Yeah.
working. Yeah.
And then like movie reviews, book reviews, kind of trying to get my cognition back.
Yeah.
Other little things like puzzles and things like that. Just that's kind of what I used the time in between hospital and rehab.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that did really help. And by the time I got to rehab, I mainly needed help with speech and OT, and getting my confidence back.
Yeah, because I bet that
Yeah.
must have taken a huge knock, because you're also reliving all of the experiences of not being believed and people not, or telling you, for a GP to tell you, this is what you're suffering with when you're adamant it's not. And to have that feeling of not being listened to just severely, or it just must knock the confidence.
Yeah, 100%. And like the field that I'm in now, I'm a trainee psychotherapist. I work with like an online mental health company, and I kind of have to trust the work that I'm doing, because for a while I didn't trust the psychological services because I was misdiagnosed and I felt mistreated.
Really good point, actually. So just for the benefit of the audience, Tell
Yeah.
us what you're doing now, because it's an amazing
Oh, thank
story,
you.
really. It really is.
Oh, yeah, so when I got sick, I was in the middle of my degree in psychology. So I had to take a year out and then I went back and I got it. And I did my thesis on perceptions of brain injuries actually, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And then I took another bit while out because I unfortunately had a relapse in 2020. But starting in October 21, I went back and I did, I'm doing my master's in psychotherapy. Yeah, so I'm really, really loving that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and during the week, I work in yeah, this online, it's CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's kind of that sort of thing. So I really enjoy that. I love working with people. Yeah.
Fantastic. So coming from this incredibly shy girl who was just not very social at all, and to have gone through this awful experience and then to have that relapse again, in 2020, so that's still recent. That was throughout the lockdown. So I guess that was also quite difficult to have to navigate hospitals again, when we weren't really able to be, visiting them and all, navigating all of that. I'm just so in awe of you and just where you are now compared to, what you've had to go through. It's just absolutely incredible. And I think you're just a fantastic testament to anybody hearing your story. Any of the people watching or listening, I'm sure, would also agree that you are just an amazing woman, because what you've gone through is just crazy, absolutely crazy. But what you're
Same
doing
to you.
now.
Same to you. Honestly, I look at odd everybody. On anybody that's overcoming encephalitis, I think we all share an incredible bond. We don't
Yeah.
even have to say anything, we just get it. And I'm in awe of you and all that work that you do for the Encephalitis Society. Just being there for somebody and saying, look, I get it, just means the world, doesn't it?
It so does. And it's so rewarding because we understand just how frightening it is. So
Yeah.
to be able to just help other people, and just ease that fear is just, I think it's just an absolutely wonderful feeling to be able to help other people in that area. So are you able to just go a little bit more into your role as what you have been doing as a volunteer for the Encephalitis Society?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned there about my relapse. It was hard. It was during lockdown, and my rehab was online, so it was a bit difficult. And kind of it was a knock to my confidence as well. So I reached out to the society and kind of said, can I do a bit of volunteering? And Laura, honestly, like she picked me up off the ground and helped build my confidence back up so much. She has
Laura is
just
the volunteers manager. We
yeah,
should point out, yeah, she looks after us all.
yeah, shout out to
Big
Laura.
shout out to Laura. We love you.
She's just like one of a kind, one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And she like, oh, she's just, I kind of have her to thank for where, especially for where I am today, going back to work and going back to college, because she was the one that kind of gave me the confidence to do that. Because when I reached out during my relapse, I said, can I do a bit of volunteering? And she eased me in, and she knew my limits, and it was okay if I was too tired one day. So we started off just with kind of doing bits and bobs, helping out where I could. And then the idea of online virtual gatherings came. And we had our first one in August 2020.
Yeah.
And I ran them alongside Laura up until, I'm going to say, last January. John joined as well.
Yeah.
And he's just such a lovely man. He's got the kindest voice.
Yes.
Voice.
Yeah.
He's just one of a kind. And the group that we built over here, quite a large group, and I think that just shows, because there's no society in Ireland, there's a real need for it. But also, one thing that I've kind of learned from it is, no matter what type of encephalitis we have, we can all support one another, and also just the lack of resources. It's really scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they're an incredible group of like little superheroes. We have lots of moms and dads joining who children have encephalitis. We have people of all age groups, people with different life experiences bringing loads to the calls. They're just amazing, really. I love them. And Laura and John are just absolute gems. So I had to take a little step back in October when I started my master's, So my masters are on the weekends, and we hold the calls on Saturdays. But fortunately, we're going to be moving them to a weekday, so that means I can join. So hopefully that's this month. I think it's the 26th or something like that, Feb. So I'll be joining from now on, thank God. Brilliant. And then in between that, I've just been helping out with the Health Unlocked, just signposting to relevant information and things like that.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit more about that, just for people that don't know what that is?
Yeah, Health Unlocked, I love it. It's just a little online forum for people a part of the Encephalitis Society. People come on, share their stories, ask questions, share tips and tricks and things like that. And it's just a really supportive environment. I have to say, for like an online social media platform, it's just very, it's just a good group of people on it. I think when I joined, there was like 50 people on it, and now there's like 250.
Wow, grown that much, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those numbers are right, but I think there's something around that.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's really nice, and I kind of just signpost to relevant information on the Encephalitis Society, and just chat to people, so I really enjoy that.
No, that's good. And I guess because it's online, that then means that we can also speak to people all over the world, no matter where they're from, which is just an amazing kind of like achievement for a little tiny small society, the Encephalitis Society, you know, based up in North Yorkshire. To be able to have that reach, that global reach, is fantastic and just so important. And like you said, you mentioned there, you know, the research is still an ongoing thing, and there's so much more that, you know, can be done and is being done, more importantly, as well. So that's a really good aspect of what the Encephalitis Society do. It's not just support, it's not just awareness, it's research as well.
Oh, they're amazing. I don't know how they do it all.
I know, me neither. I know, it's incredible. I'm just like, I don't know. There's some kind of like magic dust being sprinkled over them all.
So much work. I'm like, how do you do that? Even if you stayed up all night, you couldn't do all that work. So they're just amazing.
Yeah. No, it really is. Now, Hannah, with your experience now and everything that you've had to endure yourself, if somebody came to you, say tomorrow, diagnosed with encephalitis, either themselves or a family member, are there any kind of like, you know, because it's heavy, you know, what you've spoken about today, you know, I've been close to tears. I'm sure many other people have listening to it. So it's a heavy subject. We can't, you know, deny that. But there's always light to darkness. So is there any kind of like words of encouragement, or just, you know, any kind of funny stories or anything that you can remember in your kind of like, you know, rehab, any, you know, just something to give the peeps out there a little bit of encouragement?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said there, you know, there's light at the end of the kind of tunnel, because a woman that sat next to me in the bed used to say, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I think that's a really nice quote. And then another thing that I always say to myself / all my friends, if they're ever feeling low, is that this too shall pass. It won't be like this forever. So those are my two kind of mantras. But if I was to give a bit of advice, I would say, I know it's really, really hard. Please try your best to be patient with yourself. I know you want to get better straight away, but it just takes a bit more time than you want it to take. But it will come, it will come. And, you know, if I look back to a year ago and say, God, you know, I have everything now that I wanted in my recovery. Do you know, I think it's just looking for those small wins can encourage you to kind of keep on going. And then just to ask for help as much as you can. And also one thing that I did a lot, because I was 21, all my friends were going away and traveling, is try not to compare yourself to others. You know, other people might not have been through everything you've been through, so just go at your own pace, you know. But a funny story, God, there's a few funny stories. I'm trying to think. Oh God, sorry, there's just so many.
No, that's okay.
A funny story. I've done lots of funny things that I can't remember that my parents found absolutely hilarious. So it gave them light in a dark time.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. Oh God, there's so many. I've gone blank. Sorry.
I've put you on the spot now. Sorry.
No, you're fine. My mom said that I I had a bit of an obsession for chocolate when I was sick. Just obsessed with it. And I apparently so I was in a ward with 3 other women, and apparently I used to go around and look through their bags trying to find chocolate. And one time I actually broke into the canteen, and the canteen lady found me on the floor eating biscuits, like Bourbon biscuits.
Okay.
So yeah, apparently I was just a mad thing for chocolate. Yeah, I was just a mad Egypt for chocolate. It's hilarious.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. And the fact that it's chocolate as well. Most people will be thinking, why is she going through people's like bags and everything? Just like chocolate, chocolate, chocolate.
Oh, I do actually have a good memory from when I was sick that I don't remember myself, but there was a lady who I'm still in contact with. Her name's called Laura, and she was sat across the way from me, and I think she had Parkinson's, and apparently one day she was kind of having a bit of a flare, and I don't remember this. This is when I was in the height of it. Apparently I got out of my bed, went over, sat down beside her, and her hand was shaking, and I just held it and like looked at her and just like held her hand down because I knew she couldn't stop shaking it. She told me that about a year or two ago.
Yeah.
That it was just like, even though you weren't there, you were there.
Yeah. So you could still sense other people's kind of that distress as well. That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Thank you so much. I'm just thinking something to end on because we're nearing the end already. I can't believe it. I'm a massive, massive fan of music, and I believe that, I use music as a form of therapy. So, and I think a lot of people do. So there's certain tunes that I will need to listen to cheer me up, and kind of like, power songs. Do you have something similar?
Yeah,
and if so, what are they?
There's one, I was thinking about this, there's one song that comes to mind. Alicia Cara, I don't know if you know her. She sings the song that has helped me a lot. It's called Not Today. And it's kind of like about look, I'm finding it today hard, but it's okay. I'll get back up again tomorrow. And I listened to that so much during both bouts of my encephalitis. And whilst when I do listen to it, it does remind me of kind of bad times, but it also lifted me up at bad times.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go and listen to it. I'm gonna go and search for it.
It's very good. Yeah.
But it's amazing how certain songs just resonate, even though they may almost, like you say, invoke a possible negative reaction because it's from a time where things were incredibly difficult, but it can still offer that solace because it was in those difficult times that it was offering you that kind of, just peace of mind, just for those, brief, however long the song is, 3, 4, 5 minutes, you're just able to zone out and just, it's amazing, incredible.
And Disney songs are very like empowering, I think.
Yes,
I love a Disney song. They're so like, like even Frozen, they've got a great song in that. I can't even remember the name, but yeah, Disney songs always uplift me.
What's it called? I'm trying to think now. Oh, I can't think now. See, this is where the brain doesn't want to
I know, doesn't want to work with us.
No, it's on the tip of my tongue.
The Frozen one.
So I can't think of it now. Not to worry.
But where I go, before I go, something about going somewhere. I can't remember.
Let it go. That's
Let it go. Yes.
Let it go. There we are. Yeah. And it's so true. And it's kind of like, they're just, and I think what it is because the lyrics are just universal, because clearly they have to be relatively simplistic because obviously, allegedly, it's for a children's market. I mean,
I don't believe that.
But then also for us grown folks as well, we totally get it as well. So definitely. Now, is there anything that you would like to, just say, so, if there's anything that I've not asked you, or just something that you wanted to just kind of like put out there? Now's your chance.
I think just that I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was being really, really hard on myself. Kind of mentioned earlier, comparing myself to other people my age. not sticking to the life's plan. But you know, I think encephalitis has made me who I am, and I can't imagine life without it. It's taught me a lot of lessons, and I think just trying to use the tough times and turning it around into a lesson, like what's this teaching me, is has been really, really useful for me. But also, you know, it's okay. Like there was definitely days where I just could not get out of bed. I was so sad with everything I'd lost. It's a grief. It's saying goodbye to someone you knew and don't know anymore, and you kind of have to accept that you're a new person now.
Yeah.
It takes time, and I'm still doing that. I think I will be for a very long time. And I think just kind of sitting in that uncomfortableness and kind of knowing, look, again, this too shall pass.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, Hannah, that is just so beautiful. I'm actually welling up myself. Because I think, yeah, because even for me, you know, it's just like you say, like mine, encephalitis for me was back in 2006, and there's still to this day, there's still things that, you know, you have to learn and you have to accept. And I think it's very, I can't think of the words I'm trying to say, but it's
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just what you've just said there is just, it's just spot on. There's just nothing else I could just add to it. I concur, I agree, all of the above.
That's the thing. Anybody who has encephalitis, you don't even have to say anything. You just know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of coming out of something that's just so desperately horrible for so many of us, is just that feeling of family and being able to, like you say, have these type of discussions. And just sometimes, because finding words are difficult, sometimes memories are sometimes difficult to pull on, especially when you're kind of like in the moment. So, you know, when we get emotional or tired, fatigued, that kind of thing, quite often, you know, you'll feel all of those insecurities just come rushing back, because they're what have been left damaged in essence, you know. So you just feel, well, I always feel so much more conscious in those moments, you know, of being different, I suppose. But like you say, that's now the new me. And like just there, when you were just saying about mourning the previous you and just going through that process of grief, that's not even necessarily something that I've actually told myself, I think. So that's, yeah, thank you for that. I think that's just so important and wonderful.
Thank you.
Put. So yeah.
And just one more thing I just came into my mind is kind of what you were saying there about like being self-conscious around people and like, you know, the finding the words, getting tired. I've got two amazing friends, Megan and Hannah, same name as me. There's something in the name. And they are they've been with me from day dot. And they really like stepped up for me when I first got sick. Because I did lose friends. There is people that just couldn't handle it. So you kind of figure out who are the people in your life that will stick around. Hannah and Megan definitely were. But if we're, you know, on a night out, or like for instance we're going for a little Galentine's dinner for Valentine's, and they're like, we'll go early, you know, Hannah gets tired, like there's no, I don't have to apologize. I think, you know, if somebody's listening here who's a relative or friend, doing things like that just means the absolute world.
Yeah. It's just that little, and you don't have to do much, but it just shows that you're understanding of the person's situation. I mean, and that's, you know, that goes in life really, doesn't it, for anything and anyone, but in particular somebody, especially with a traumatic brain injury, because it's hidden, you can't see it, you know, we're not walking down the street and you can see a physical problem with us. So it's, I think that's why it just means so much more, doesn't it, when it's kind of like your loved ones that just look out for you that little more, and you just know they've got your back, and it's an incredible feeling just to have that support. So.
They're always looking out for me, and especially when I relapsed, like every day I'd go downstairs and be a package at the door, a care package with sweets, a face mask, nail polish, like every single day. And even my friend Megan came at the height of the pandemic, and we were on our phones talking through the window looking at each other. Like they just did, like just finding people that just, you know, go out of their way to help you feel less lonely in it, because it's a lonely disease, 100%.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Oh, Hannah, thank you so much for your time today. This has been an incredible chat, and I have no doubt that people listening or watching this will gain so much from your experience. So thank you for just being so open and so honest. And also, I just say a big shout out to your volunteer group in Ireland. So anybody over there who doesn't at this moment feel that they can reach out, please do. Get in contact with the Encephalitis Society, and you can then sign up for the volunteering groups, sorry, for the support groups rather, that Hannah as a volunteer runs. So once again, thank you so much for today. It's much appreciated. Take care of yourself and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Day My Brain Broke. If you would like further information about the Encephalitis Society, their website is encephalitis.info. That's ENCEPHALITIS.info. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Also, if you have been or know of someone else who has been affected by encephalitis and you would like to share your story, please do get in contact with us, as we would love to hear from you. You can email me at lucy.teamencephalitis@gmail.com. And finally, if you're also inclined to see more of what I have to offer, then please do like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ladybird Wellness. You can also find Ladybird Wellness on Facebook and Instagram.